As the US election approached, here at LSTV, we wanted to cover the presidential race in a way we never had before, be at the front line of history and feel connected to American voters.
So we came here to the USA to be on the ground as votes are cast across all 50 states. Whatever the result, this election promises to be historic. A victory for Kamala Harris would make her the first female president in the history of the United States, while victory for Donald Trump would see him be the first president to return to office after a failed re-election attempt. I'm Matt Sykes, here in Times Square, New York City, on the eve of the final day of polling of the 2024 presidential US election.
And it's all coming to a close here in Washington, D.C. on Election Day in the United States. Today, voters will cast a ballot for their favorite presidential candidate. In most states, the candidate that wins the popular vote is awarded the electoral vote for that state. The amount of electoral votes depends on the state's population. Overall, there are 538 electoral votes. A president must gain 270 electoral votes in order to win. Most states have a party that they historically have voted for. However, at each election, there are a number of states that cannot be predicted. These are known as swing states. Swing states are determined during each election cycle depending on several statistics, including previous results, recent developments, political trends, and more. This year's swing states are made up by the Blue Wall states, including Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and the Sun Belt states Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. While every vote does count, this system makes voters feel otherwise, with a third of Americans not casting a ballot in the previous presidential election. With this in mind, we spoke to voters here in the Capitol to discuss the election. Did you guys vote? And if so, why?
Yes, I've been voting since I turned 18, so I vote every election year.
I voted because I got to vote. We got to vote. There was actually a couple different things on the ballot that were pretty heavy hitters. We had the abortion ban.
What were the key issues for you in this election?
Certainly the economy and immigration were the two highest on my list. The last 4 years has shown that the economy was not sustainable in the path that we were going down. And I believe that Trump's going to turn that around and that the economy is going to rebound over the next 4 years.
I'm looking to buy a home soon, probably in the next year. I'm not even sure if the economy will change so much in that span of time because, I know it takes a while for things to actually, even if they put something in place, it's going to take a while to just even see the fruits of that. But I'm hoping that it's headed in the right direction. I was more concerned about local affairs, though. Overall government, I don't think nothing much is going to change in regards to that. We just picked the lesser of two evils as best as we could.
Stood here in Washington, D.C., as polls are closing across the country, we can now reflect on what a long and fiercely ran campaign this has been. It's been 721 days since Donald Trump first announced his candidacy to be President of the United States, and 115 days since he survived an assassination attempt. For the Democrats, 107 days ago, Joe Biden was still seeking re-election, but after a series of poor public performances was forced to step aside and replaced by Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, as a result of voting today, one of them will enter the White House as president in January 2025. Speaking to voters across the day, key issues raised were the economy, abortion rights and immigration. But topping a national poll was the state of democracy in the US. How these issues will affect the result nationwide, time will only tell. Overnight, it was confirmed that Donald Trump has won the 2024 election and a second term as president. While every vote is still to be counted, a win in Wisconsin took him past the 270 electoral votes needed for the presidency. In front of a jubilant crowd, Trump spoke of how voters had given him a powerful mandate to act on his pledges. Trump's political comeback is one of the most dramatic of all time. After failing to accept the loss in the 2020 presidential election, he faced charges for allegedly inciting violence seen here on January the 6th, 2021. His role in trying to overturn the result is still being investigated now. However, now in 2024, Trump's campaign resonated with voters by focusing on the economy and asking the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? With many voters believing that the economy was stronger under Trump and voting for him in the hope that he can make America affordable again. The issue of immigration also played a huge factor in the result of this election, with many Americans concerned about illegal immigration, which had reached its highest levels ever under the Biden administration.
How do you feel about the election, and how do you think the result will affect you?
I am happy with the results of the election. I'm happy that Trump beat Harris.
I'm highly disappointed. I was hoping for Kamala Harris to be our president today.
I don't think the result will affect me, but I think it will affect the country. So, for me, the country is now in a better direction.
I don't feel good about this election at all. I think Trump is a very dangerous person to have at the helm of the largest economy and the largest military in the world. I worry about how open he is to dictatorship and plutocracy. I worry about Project 2025. I worry about the rise of white Christian nationalism and the misogyny that comes along with it.
I'm not thinking about me personally as much as I'm thinking about our whole country. I'm worried what he's going to do, what he will take away, and what he'll give to people who already have more than they need.
I'm not worried about what's going to happen to me. Last January, because of overturning Dobbs, there were 64,000 pregnant rape victims in this country who do not have access to health care. That's 64,000 rape victims who are potentially forced to carry their rapist child to term.
So my main issue is abortion, and Trump has compromised time and time again on abortion. So it wasn't like I was really over the top optimistic about him, but I know Harris is wanting to restore Roe v. Wade, which is a non-negotiable for me.
Well, immigration, I arrived here legally. I waited years to come here, so I don't understand why they're putting people in without any document or verification or whatever, and by the millions, apparently.
Even though right now we're in the Northeast, I mean, we've seen how they put all these migrants in big cities and how we see how they're getting treated better than citizens, whether that's minorities or veterans. And so I think that because of that, they could have potentially continued to put all these resources towards these illegal immigrants. And then also they could have used these illegal immigrants to vote in elections and overthrow our democracy as we know it.
We live in a country where there's one of the parties, the Republican Party, that my entire adult life has been trying to suppress the vote. It's very unnerving to me that we appear to have reelected someone who, for the first time in American history, refused to accept the results of an election and started an insurrection.
I think everybody should vote. The only way to express your will and your preferences is voting.
Kamala, I believe, would have brought people together. She kept saying that she would be a president for all the people. And I really believe that. I think we would have been full of more hope going forward and being represented in a better way.
Ultimately, a key factor was the failings of the Biden administration, meaning that many voters couldn't bring themselves to vote for his vice president in Kamala Harris, as it would mean voting for more of the same when the American people wanted change. Therefore, despite warnings from Trump's opponents and even former members of staff that he was a liar and unfit for office, his pledge to put America first won over voters in key battleground states, winning Donald Trump a historic second term as President of the United States. Matt Sykes, Leeds Student Television, Washington.